Hi, I'm Nelson Day. I am an AMJ certified rock guide and also a single pitch instructor, a program provider. I also operate the Climbing Life Guides, which is a guide service in Joshua Tree National Park. For this lesson, we're going to be going over how to tie a bowline. And bowlines are very handy knots for especially wrapping rocks or trees or natural protection that you find outside as you're creating anchors. I'm going to show you my two different ways of tying a bowline. One is the traditional loop, swoop and pull method, or the rabbit in the hole. The other method is what I call the snap bowline. The first method I will show you will be the rabbit coming out of the hole around the tree back through. So what we need to do is wrap something. I'm going to act like I'm wrapping this carabiner just for simplicity. Here's what I've wrapped, and I need to get my end of the rope somewhere close. Here's my end of the rope. So to make this loop method, I'm going to make a loop in my load strand. So here's the tail of my rope. I'm going to call this my load strand. This is what I'm going to be pulling on as I'm working. Make a loop in the load strand. If I make a loop, when I make my loop, the loop can either be oriented with a load strand on top of the loop or with a load strand underneath the loop. So I'm going to call this orientation with the load strand under the loop and this orientation with the load strand on top of the loop. I'm going to start with my loop with my load strand under the loop. So with my load strand under the loop, I'm going to bring my brake strand in from the bottom of my loop, and now I'm going to wrap around the load strand and come back out through the loop. In the end, you can see what I call a basket, and the basket's going to be capturing the load strand. Once I've created my bowline, I need to back up the bowline by basically tying half a double fisherman's knot around one side of the loop, whichever the end of the rope is facing already. So when I'm done, my bowline has a nice finished backup knot next to the bowline itself. If my loop is oriented with a load strand on top, let's tie another loop. Now my load strand is on the top, as you can see. Now my end of the rope is going to come in from the top of the loop. That's the only difference. We're going to go around our load strand and back out the same way our end came in. So if you can remember, when the load strand is on the top, come in through the top. When the load strand is on the bottom, come in through the bottom. Maybe that'll help with this process of making sure the rabbit is going the right way around the tree. The second method I'm going to show you for tying a bowline is what I call the snap bowline. Snap bowline achieves the same knot with a different method. The method is going to be utilizing a slip knot. So first, we're going to go over how to tie a slip knot, and then I'm going to show you how to use a slip knot to tie a bowline. So a slip knot is formed by making a loop with your rope and then pulling one of the strands through that loop. I could either pull this strand through the loop, or I could pull my other strand through the loop. Both of those actions create a slip knot, and that's going to be our first step in our tying our bowline. So what I want to do is go ahead and wrap my object again, whether this is a tree. In this situation, it's a carabiner. Now I'm going to make a slip knot in my load strand. This is my end strand. This is the load strand. When I make this slip knot, I'm going to need to make sure to pull the load strand through the loop. So everybody can see the load strand here, and I'm pulling the load strand through my loop to create a slip knot. When my slip knot is oriented properly, I have a twist on one side, and that twist is going to be going towards what I've wrapped. The other side of my slip knot is going to be forming a T, and this T is going to be aimed at my load strand, where I'm loading. Once I have my slip knot in my load strand, I'm going to take my end of my rope and put it through the slip knot. And now that my end of my rope is through my slip knot, I'm going to try to pull my slip knot out. So when I start to pull my slip knot out, I'm going to identify which two strands in this loop are what make my slip knot up. And as I pull the two strands that are making my slip knot smaller and smaller and smaller, my slip knot flips into a bowline. So there's our finished bowline. I call that our snap bowline. I can show you real time how fast that process can be. make your wrap around your object, make your slip knot, pull your load strand through, put your end of your rope through the slip knot, and make the slip knot disappear into a bowline. And there's our bowline. The last step is going to be backing this slip knot up with a double fisherman's right next to the bowline itself. There's our finished bowline. And both of those methods, the slip knot method or the loop method, achieve the same goal in the end, and whichever you choose is totally up to you. I just want to give you two options as you go out and practice, whatever you prefer. Either way is completely correct. That's our bowline.